the tractate of Sotah is dealing with questions of uncertainty. So there's this jealousy between the husband and the wife. We don't know if there's anything real behind it. We go through this ritual of the bitter waters to try to clarify uncertainty. And that, by the way, is one of the themes of the whole of the tractate of Sotah. So as the tractate progresses, you'll see, for example, that we deal with a case of the person that's just found dead in the desert. Someone's found dead in the desert. We think he's been murdered. We don't know who's responsible. We don't know why. We have to go through a process of absolution in order to, if you like, restore order, just as we go through the ritual of the bitter waters to restore order. So we're dealing with uncertainty and resolution. And of course, the background to the whole of the Mishnah is that we're living after the destruction, not just the destruction of the temple in the year 70, but the destruction of the whole of the land of Israel after the revolution in the year 125. The Romans essentially, the Romans murdered and burnt and slaughtered in the land of Israel to an extent that can only be compared actually to, you know, the Holocaust of the Second World War. It was an extraordinary event. And the rabbis are left asking themselves, well, how do we know that we're studying the right halakha? Do we go from drush? Do we learn a halakha from the verses? Do we go from tradition? Do we go according to what our teacher has taught us? That's effectively the method of Rabbi Eliezer, who repeats only teachings he's heard from his teacher. Can we go according to logical inference? Or can we go according to, you could say, maaseh, to, you know, can we follow practice? And these questions are running underneath the surface of the whole of the Mishnah. Now, as we enter the 5th chapter of Sotah, we're going to see a set of halachot, a set of laws which are expounded from the verses, expounded from drasha, so to speak. So we're going to see if you like, we're going to see drush as the primary method of asserting the correctness of the halacha. And we're going to see a whole collection of drush, which is all learnt out on the same day. I think this day is the day that Rabban Gamliel was deposed as head of the Sanhedrin. So on that day, there was an explosion of creativity. So we are learning out from the text, but we're learning new halakha from the text. Or perhaps not. Perhaps this is old halakha that we're rediscovering from the text. You'll see that there's a tension there. But even though in this 5th chapter, most of these halachot are completely unrelated to Sotah, we're going to begin in the usual chain-like method that we've seen before in Mishnah. We're going to begin by learning one halakha related to the Sotah, and we're going to apply the method of drush to it, by the way. So this is more like a midrash than a Mishnah. We're going to apply the method of drush to it. We're going to jump off from Sotah, and then as the chapter develops, we're going to explore entirely different areas. And so the Mishnah asks, or it states, Kashem shehamayim bodkin ota, kach bodkin oto. Just as the water checks her, so the water checks him. And the Mishnah here seems to be referring to the suspected lover. In other words, that if the water should make her belly swell up and her thigh drop and her face go green and her veins protrude, all these things that happen as she drinks the bitter waters, exactly the same things should happen to him. And it's very interesting. This is the first point where the Mishnah has explicitly referred to him as well as to her. The rabbis have got this extraordinary focus on her in the first 4 chapters of the Mishnah. Now, just briefly, momentarily, they equate with him. So, kashem she'amayim bodkin ota, kach bodkin oto. Just as the water checks her, the water checks him. That's the halacha. And we're going to learn it from a verse. Shenemar uva'u uva'u. As it is said, and they shall enter, and they shall enter. So what is going on here? What is going on here? Let's have a look at the verses. So in verse 22, we're in chapter 5 of Numbers, of Bamidbar. The text says, Uvau hamayim ha'mu'ararim ha'ele me'aich. This curse-making water shall go into your bowels. Uvau, they shall go in. And this word, uvau, they shall go in, is then repeated 5 verses later. The priest makes the woman drink the waters, and then the verse says, if she is defiled, again, the curse-making water will go into her. So twice we say the water will go in. We seem to be learning a drush from the fact that the expression "the water will go in" is stated twice, or maybe because it's twice, or maybe because it says "and uva'u," and they shall enter. It's not quite clear actually how the drush is being constructed, but let's just carry on reading through the Mishnah. Maybe this will become clear. Or maybe it is, or maybe, we said that the tractate of Sotah is about doubt. Maybe in fact we're going to be left in a state of doubt about this. But let's just hold in the back of our minds whether it's the u, in other words, the and, or whether it's the double ba'u. We don't know, but let's keep going. Just as she's prohibited to the husband, she's prohibited to the lover. We've said that if she refuses to drink, then of course, the uncertainty remains. I mean, if she drinks, there's no uncertainty. If she drinks, there's no uncertainty. Either she goes back to her husband or she dies. But if she refuses to drink, or for some reason she can't drink, maybe her husband won't let her drink, at that point, the uncertainty is never resolved. And she's prohibited to the husband. Whether she takes her ketubah or not is a question. It depends on the circumstance. If her husband stops her drinking, then she gets her ketubah. If she refuses to drink, she won't get her ketubah. But either way, she's prohibited to the husband. And the Mishnah is now saying something quite interesting and quite psychological. She's also prohibited to her lover. In other words, she can't use the Sotah process and a refusal to drink as a way to then get divorced from a husband and marry her lover. And we already have a principle in, I believe, in the Mishnah, ha-nitan ha-isha venit garsha lo yichnos, someone who's suspected as, or who's claimed to have had an affair with a married woman. Once she's divorced, he can't marry her. So a man is already forbidden to marry a divorced woman with whom he's suspected of having an affair. And we can kind of see the psychological reasons for that. But the Mishnah is now going to, if you like, articulate the prohibition the other way around. Just as she's forbidden to her husband, so she's prohibited to a lover. And we're going to learn it from a text. The halacha of the nitana isha, someone who's suspected of having an affair with a married woman, that is just stated. It is not learnt from the text, but here we're going to learn from the text. Shenemar im nitma ve nitma'a, divrei Rabbi Akiva. So we have, if she's defiled and is defiled, twice in 2 verses, and we've now got divrei Rabbi Akiva. This is Rabbi Akiva. This is the master of drush. Let's have a look at the verses. Well, in verse 27, we've got vehishka et hamayim v'haita nitma'a. When he makes her drink the water, and if she's defiled, then these terrible things will happen. And then 2 verses later, just in summary, Zot Torat HaKanaot Asher Tiste Isha Tachat Isha Ve Nitma'a, and is defiled. So we've got this same word, ve nitma'a, coming twice. Sorry, we've got im nitma'a and ve nitma'a. So nitma'a is coming twice, but ve, and comes in the second time round. And comes in the second time round. Let's just try to keep that in mind. Rabbi Akiva seems to be learning from the Vav, because he says he quotes nitma'a ve nitma'a, and that's divrei Rabbi Akiva. And Rabbi Yoshua is going to agree. Amar Rabbi Yoshua kachaya doresh Zechariah ben Hakatsav. Rabbi Yoshua said Zechariah ben Hakatsav used to say the same thing round. Rebbe has a slightly different drush. Rebbe Omer, that's Rabbi Yudan Nasi, the compiler of the Mishnah. Shnei pa'amim ha'amurim b'parsha. Im nitma'a, nitma'a. Twice is said in the Parsha, defiled. So he's clearly learning out from the double nitma'a. So now we can infer that Rabbi Akiva is learning from the Vav. Rabbi Akiva is learning from the Vav. Rebbe says it's just the two words, nitma'a, nitma'a. Echad la ba'al ve'echad la bo'al. One for the husband and one for the lover. So Rebbe seems to be learning out from the dual words. Rabbi Akiva seems to be learning from the word and. And perhaps, of course, this then applies to the halacha of the water checking him as checking her. So Rabbi Akiva, we've got the verse saying uvau, uvau, and they shall enter, and they shall enter. And I think we can imagine that Rabbi Akiva would learn from the Vav, and Rebbe would learn from the fact that the word enter is given twice.